All right, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Um, welcome everyone to our Austin Tableau user group. Um, we are coming from you live here in Austin, and as Homer said, it is sunny outside. So I love to bring a little bit of real world into our virtual meetings here. So my name's Chris Monahan. I'll be your MC today. We got an exciting event planned for you. We have a great guest speaker that's going to be showing you how to do prototyping using Figma and Tableau. It's pretty awesome. So stay tuned. You're going to love it. Just before we start all of our tugs, I always like to thank the members of our advisory council. These are the folks that meet throughout the month and work really hard to bring you these great events. They do everything from event planning to lining up speakers and doing the logistics behind the scene. If you are interested in joining our advisory council, please reach out to myself or someone on the advisory council, and we'd love to have you join the team. Nicole and Josh just joined recently, so we're looking to add some more folks. So if you want to help out, please let us know. If you got a flair for marketing or event planning, or maybe even social media, just let us know. Reach out, and we'd love to have you join. So here's our agenda today. I'm going to start off, kick things off with a couple of announcements, and just talk about some upcoming events. And then, as I mentioned, we have our featured speaker, Lindsay Betzendahl, who is a senior consultant and design lead at HealthDataViz, and she's going to be giving a presentation around Figma and Tableau and how you can use it to accelerate your dashboard development. So, as I mentioned, it's really cool. You definitely want to check this out. And then, after the presentation, we're going to have a breakout session that we do. It's called Ask Anyone Anything About Tableau, and Homer and I will be the moderators around that. So stay tuned if you want to do a little bit more networking there. Of course, this is a meeting format. It is a live meeting. You'll notice today that we are on a slightly different platform, which I'll explain in here in a sec, but we're using a new platform that Tableau's transitioned to called Bevy, and we're using their conferencing system. It's a little bit quirky in some sense, and so you might not be able to share your video, but we'll be on Zoom next session, so we'll get those kinks ironed out. During the presentation, though, we do want you to chat, and during the event, please participate in the chat window. Make any comments about things you like, things you heard, things that are cool. So we definitely want to make this interactive. So post that down in the chat. And if you have any questions for our speaker, please go ahead and post them, and Homer will collect them and save them for the end. We'll do a Q&A after the presentation. In addition, we'll put some survey links there, and we'll also send out a recording of today's meeting as a follow-up via email so that everyone can view this later on their own. So some general housekeeping announcements. We have our May TUG coming up, May 18th. And our featured speaker then is going to be Eva Murray, and she's a lead evangelist at Snowflake. And she's going to be talking to us about how to find your professional niche in the data industry. So that's a really cool presentation just around sort of finding your own way or niche in your profession. And then we have some upcoming TUG events. We have our May TUG and then our June TUG, which are both going to be virtual. In July, we are taking a summer break as we do every year. And then we'll be coming back really strong in August with an on-site hybrid event, which will have a happy hour as well. As I mentioned, just to catch everybody up, we did switch to a new platform. You guys used it to register, so thank you very much. We had a high registration. We had over 90 folks register for this event. That's amazing. For right now, everything's going to be on this new platform called Bevy, and that's where you can go and find all of our events listed at tableau.bevy.com/Austin Tableau user group. And that's where you can find all of our events and go ahead and register for them for next month. After May 8th, it's going to revert back to the old URL, usergroups.tableau.com/Austin, and you can find us back at that old URL. So don't worry about it. Either link will work. It'll just redirect. So, but if you do want to find us for the next event, you're going to have to use the URL up above. So just a little tip. This is exciting. Today we launched our Slack community. It's available now. It's available for everyone. Everybody that has been registered with our TUG previously should have gotten an invite. We have over 30, maybe 40 people that have registered already today alone. So I'll shortly be putting some information in in the chat window so you all can go ahead and register. It's got an invite link. If you want to join, simply click on that. You can join our community. We're going to have lots of communication um, throughout the month, so you don't have to wait until every tug to see everybody, to network or anything like that. It'll happen all during during the month, every day, and you can go ahead and participate in some of our community channels, such as recommending speaking events. We have general announcements. We have some career listings, as well as help wanted. So definitely check it out. It's super cool, and we're very excited. Thank you to Homer for helping us launch this today. So, and I'd be remiss if I did not remind everyone that Tableau Conference is right around the corner. It's going to be May 9th. It's 3 days of fun, all things data. It's going to be in Vegas as well as remote. So for those of you that want to go to Vegas, please go ahead and register. There's still hotel rooms available. And for those that want to check it out virtually, just go to the URL below and go ahead and register. It's a great opportunity to see amazing presentations and learn everything that's coming out, all the new features that are coming out with Tableau, and all the new cool announcements. So definitely don't miss this event. And the last two items I want to bring up is, with our Tableau conference, we always do a post TC recap at the next TUG. So on our May 18th TUG, we're going to do a panel, and we're asking for some volunteers from the community that would like to be on our panel. The only commitment is you have to join, you have to be on the next TUG event, and we'll make you a presenter as well with the rest of the other panelists. And we're going to ask some questions and just talk high level about what are some of the exciting news and highlights we saw at TC. What are some of the interesting presentations we saw, and we'll also field some questions from the larger TUG community as well. So if you're interested in just being a panelist, reach out to Kate. You can reach out to her via Slack. So if you want to do that, go ahead and let us know. And then lastly, we have our in-person event in August, as I mentioned. It's going to be a hybrid event. For those that can join us at our TUG, we are going to have a happy hour. It's going to be Thursday after the TUG event, 5 to 7, somewhere downtown. We're still working on the venue. James is putting that together, but be on the lookout for that information coming out later this summer. So, all right, that's enough of the housekeeping stuff. Let's get to the good stuff. I want to again welcome Lindsay, who is our featured speaker, and she is a 4-time Tableau visionary, a public ambassador, very active in the Tableau community. And she does amazing stuff with designing beautiful dashboards. So she's been nice and gracious enough to present today about how to use Figma and Tableau to prototype your dashboard. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Lindsay.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris.
All right.
All right. Okay.
Good.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't look too slow. I know it's not on my screen, but all right, awesome. So thanks. All right, so I'm going to be talking about Figma and Tableau, and I think, well, hopefully this will be a little interactive for me, so we'll see how this goes. But I'm really excited to share this information. I've been using Tableau for like 10 years almost now, and Figma for, I can't remember, maybe it's been like 3. But I love using both these tools, and both of them 24/7 concurrently, always together. So I think it's a really great supplement to enhancing both prototyping and the things you can bring into your Tableau dashboards. And I apologize, I always say this. I'm always looking at my other big screen because it's easier to work on. So I'm not gonna always look at the camera. You're all there. So yeah, I say a lot about myself, but other than I work here and found a passion for the design aspect of dashboards, and has allowed a lot more creativity for me and for many others that I've seen in the Tableau community in terms of being able to add some really nice pizzazz and design elements to dashboards that are outside the box of what Tableau offers. But also this prototyping aspect that I do all the time in my client work with designs. which allows me to really get creative without having to build in that. So I love the flexibility that this tool provides me and the creativity that I can bring to it. All right, so what are you going to learn? So I'm just going to assume that most of you know what Figma is, but we'll do a quick overview about what Figma is, talk about how and why you should prototype, and then I'm going to share some examples and techniques to both create objects and then other skills that will help accelerate what you do in Figma as it relates to Tableau. So we can start with what's Figma. So essentially it's a web-based design tool. So it is something that you access through the web, but they do have a desktop application. But what's really great about that is that means you can take your work anywhere. So I can log into my account somewhere else and still access what I was working on. So I don't have to have my computer with me, which is nice. And you can even access it therefore like on an iPad, although it's a little trickier to use, but I have done that in Pinch. I find it really easy to learn and therefore to use. I never really took a lot of, or I didn't take any courses or classes on how to use Figma. I did a lot of trial and error, but that's how I approach a lot of things. But if you are someone who likes to watch videos, thankfully there's plenty of those out there as well. I think many people say it's sort of like in the middle between PowerPoint, the ease and accessibility of it, and Illustrator, which is much more complicated design tool. So it falls somewhere in the middle, has similarities to both tools. So a lot of aspects of it feel very familiar, you know, filling things with a paint bucket and dragging to create shapes and things like that. But, you know, I think there's obviously do a lot more. So depending on what you need to do, you can use the advanced stuff. I think it makes prototyping a breeze. So for me, I don't really do well on paper. This allows me to basically draw on this canvas in Figma, and I'll show you some simple tricks to make that process faster. I will say that, you know, it takes some time for anyone to kind of get used to it, to be like speedy at prototyping, but you certainly can do it. It's easy to export files, and one of the things that I do like about Figma is that it allows you to export images of what you create at different resolutions and different file types. So, you know, I can do a PNG, I can do a PDF, depending on what the client needs or what I need. That's very simple to do. It's leveraged by a lot of companies. Your company may already use Figma, which I think is great. That means that you may have access to a professional version or access to Teams. There's also you can have a free account as well that anyone can access online. And there are some minor limitations in terms of how many files you can use for collaborating, but a lot of people work around those kind of things, and I don't really find it too much of a limitation. And then lastly, it's really great for user testing and sharing and collaborating. So where I work, we use Figma for all of our design work and prototyping, and then we can easily share other stuff, provide feedback and comments, and, you know, do other kind of brainstorming activities. So why would you want to use something like Figma with Tableau? And obviously you can prototype with fake data in Tableau, and, you know, you can design on the fly and make edits obviously to Tableau. So why would you want to use something else? Well, aside from just being able to build something or get some ideas down, the prototyping part of things, I also like it for doing my collection of inspirations. So because it's kind of this file format, I can create a page that has all my inspiration and mood boards as I'm working concepts with a client or, you know, for myself for prototyping. Additionally, probably seen plenty on Tableau Public. People use a lot of dashboard background images that create a full background in Figma, and then you know, float containers and objects on top of that. You can also create your own buttons and shapes, icons, navigation panels, all these types of things if you want something that's customized than what Tableau can create natively. And yes, you can do those types of things also in something like PowerPoint, which I think a lot of folks used before Figma kind of came along. But the opportunities to not only create these things, but also, you know, modify them or share them with others, or maintain some system of these objects is much easier in Figma. You can also create like custom fonts and titles using the images from exporting from Figma. And you may have seen Kevin Wee's presentation where he talked about that kind of an image on top of your Tableau dashboard to annotate and explain things. Maybe you haven't checked out his, certainly should. And then lastly, you can actually illustrate in Figma, which I've done a couple of times in some of my public visits, which it's a little tricky, but people have done some pretty fantastic and crazy things with just illustrating with vectors essentially in the program. So here are just some like examples of things that we're kind of going to talk about some of these concepts. There's things such as making buttons, making backgrounds, making other shapes, prototyping, which is in like this bottom left. I don't think you can actually see my cursor. Which is kind of weird. This middle one, this yellow, is an infographic that I made that's completely done in Figma, even though there are data elements in it. I recreated them in here for a client. Icon. I mean, these are icons that you can find other ones, or you can make your own. And some background images that you can kind of see on the right. Okay, next up, talk about why you should prototype, and I'll show some examples of this. So, Automatani and I gave a presentation on why you should prototype at Tableau conference last year. If you haven't seen that, we have shared it at a couple other TUGs. This is a slide from that. And so now that I do this frequently, I can't imagine not prototyping and just diving into Tableau instead and building. It just feels like I'd be kind of lost. So prototyping really helps you start the whole process earlier and getting some feedback from your users or your clients, as well as, in my opinion, like as you're iterating on things, it's much easier to iterate in something like Figma than it is in Tableau. You can also better estimate timeframes for how long something's going to take to build in Tableau. Once you've kind of like designed an entire dashboard, you should have some sense of the complexities of the dashboard based on what you've designed, versus saying, build this dashboard and it'll take X hours, and then you actually have no idea what you're building yet. So I don't know how you know how long it's going to take, right? And then prototyping helps prevent scope creep because you've identified exactly what you're going to build. So typically then a client can come along and say, well, actually, I want it to be like this, because you've designed something and they've agreed upon it, and hopefully that's what you're keeping to. And as I said, in my opinion, you can build a lot faster once you have an entire blueprint basically built in Figma. So how do you do it? So if you haven't done it before, this is sort of like my process of prototyping. And I always start with kind of collecting research and content, and whether that's from just scouring the internet for ideas or looking at my client's website and seeing how they already laid things out, looking at Tableau Public, Dribble, all these things, and I just grab screenshots and put them into Figma. This helps me just kind of get started with how to prototype, particularly when I'm not building the same thing all the time. The next part is going to be like kind of framing out your dashboard, and you're going to want to know what size your dashboard is going to be, and we'll talk in a second about this first step of that process. And then, if you want to use brand colors. So we'll talk a little bit about how to create color palettes. And then next, after I've got the dashboard frame, I've got my colors organized, then you start kind of figuring out where to put charts, right? Depending on what you either think that has to go on a page, or the type of metrics or data you have, or what your client's looking for, you should be able to identify how you put charts, how they might lay out, and you can move things around and kind of play with this layout and what's going to work. The next thing is really understanding Tableau's capabilities while you're prototyping. So you're not building something that either is going to be very complicated to build in Tableau, or Tableau cannot do. Data might not support it. So that is definitely something to always keep in mind. You definitely can go crazy with designing something and then realize that what you design requires like 50 worksheets or something, and now your dashboard slows to a crawl. So you do want to kind of know all those things. And the last couple of things is you can get feedback. So you can share the PDF images with your clients, or you can into the actual Figma file and allow them to make comments and, and discuss it that way. And then iterate easy. If someone wants to move something around, it's much easier to move an entire block of things in Figma than it would be to move a bunch of charts in Tableau. And then you can also reuse elements in future stages of things. If I've already built a line chart somewhere else, I can usually just kind of grab it, like copy it in. Or if you have a whole design system or build out, even better. But that takes time. So not going to go over this really, but this is kind of like, this is an actual example, like a mood board for a client, where I just grabbed a bunch of stuff that was either related to the topic of the work or other websites I liked or data visualizations that I saw. So definitely kind of using Figma as a action for ideas. Okay, so after the mood board thing in terms of prototyping, and I mentioned was building a frame, which is essentially like imagine just your canvas if we're talking about it in Tableau. So when I first started using Figma, I actually didn't even realize this because, again, I didn't take any, I didn't watch any videos, so I was just making, white rectangles and putting things in on top of them. Bad idea. Doing that, listen up, don't do that. So frames are the canvas, and then goes in it is controlled by that frame, and the frame influences whatever is within it. So you can custom properties of the frame itself, like the fill, the stroke, the effects, and also the constraints. And also, if you're doing something that's a larger prototype with multiple dashboards, you can prototype interactions between frames. They have to be frames to do the interactivity. And you can nest frames within one another. So I'm going to do this because I want to show how this sort of works. So, let's see if I can zoom in here. There we go. All right, so here what you'll see, and let's see here. Here we go. So on my little layers over here, you'll see this frame. Okay. So I have the parent frame is this purple one, and so that would be the frame put directly onto the Figma canvas. And actually, if you really look at this, this is a frame. This is the real frame, and I'm just kind of showing you a second one. And what's cool about this is that, there we go. So this frame is the main one. And then we have in here a nested frame. So I have a secondary pink one, two pink ones in here. And the pink one are a bunch of objects. So these are the children that are in this nested frame. Now I know these are a little more complicated skills. I'm hoping that a lot of people have some of the basics. So giving us some extra tips here. The way frames work is that they, as I said, the frame influences everything in it. So if I grab this main one, and you'll see over on the right here, there's a thing called layer, and how this is like controls the entire layer's opacity. So frames, if I change this to 50%, everything within it also changes, even though I did not touch the colors of those other frames. So you see how that changed everything. So a frame then can be influence everything underneath it or within it. The other thing is that you can decide how you want objects within a frame to behave. So here's the relevant example. Think in Tableau when you have all your objects and you change the size of your dashboard. What happens? Everything like suddenly fills differently or shifts not the way you wanted it to, right? And there's no way to control in the Tableau's like canvas frame what happens when you adjust the size. They don't have a mechanism for that at the moment. At frames, you see on the right, scale, and that's the constraint. So saying when this larger frame, I want this frame to scale. This one I set to center. I want everything in the middle to stay centered. I'm just going to show you how this works. I know it's a little interesting. So when I make this bigger, you'll see what happens is the top pink box scaled. The other one did not. It stayed in the center. As these things, you'll see that's what happens. And so it's not changing size, it's staying fixed in the center regardless of the frame. The other one is scaling. This can be really useful for the development of a lot of different types of objects in Figma. So let's talk about some other skills. Okay, so a couple things. Again, remember, a frame is something you're putting objects within. So here's a frame I've already built, or just drop on the page. And you'll see it says it's a frame, it has a size, it's on a placement. These are the X and Y coordinates within a frame, not within my entire outside Figma canvas, but within a frame. So I can adjust the size of these. I can manually put in, I want it to be 400 by 200. I can just type that in. So you can adjust those. Additionally, Figma comes with a number of other sizes. Again, thinking that this is very similar to my other design. It's not just going to have like a Tableau dashboard size on here, but it does have other things. So if you're going to make a Tableau dashboard, I always, make mine. I'll start out with like 1200 by like 900 or something, right? And then maybe that's the standard one. And so that would be what I would build and put everything within it. Frames operate, here's another couple of the frames here. Frames can clip the content within them or not. And so what I mean by that is I have taken a circle, and you'll see here's a circle. Not in the frame, now it's in the frame. And you can actually see this on the left of it is my frame, and the circle is now within it. If I move out, it's no longer the frame, I can drag it back in. It's not in it, and if it doesn't go in, you say get back in the frame. But I don't want that one in there too. The reason this is helpful is because sometimes you want things to be kind of off the page, or you don't need an entire shape, and so the frame can clip that content, and that's very different than if you're making something and before I was trying to like literally cut off things to make it the right shape. This is on this top right, which is clip content. If you turn that off, you get basically this, where I still have a frame, and I do have a circle that's technically inside the frame. However, I'm not telling it to clip the content. Now, I don't use this very often, but it does show how these things interact, and that even though I can see what's outside of it is technically within this frame, and therefore, as I said before, whatever I do this frame will impact what's within it. So I had changed the opacity of the entire frame to 50. It changed the circle, even though it doesn't look like it's in the frame, but it is. Frames also, a frame versus an object, use a layout grid. Let's see if we can, there we go. Here, this frame has a layout grid, and this can be really helpful to change a layout grid and say, okay, maybe I have a dashboard of 1200 pixels wide, and I want to see every 10 pixels so that I can have the grid, so I don't have to really kind of guess. I can kind of see where to align things and how far to space things apart. So those can be useful as well. And basically, as I said before, frames, you can change the effects. So you can make drop shadows or inner shadows, fill just like you can any other object. So we can do all those things. And lastly, again, with the frame, with the constraints, this is where I want to show an actual application for prototyping. as it relates to Tableau. So here's a menu, or sorry, a filter example that then I use in my dashboard prototypes that is meant to look like Tableau's. But think about how Tableau's works. If you give a filter a lot of space, you know, it doesn't fill the space in like a weird way where it's going to get like big. Like I don't need what I've drawn in here to suddenly get large. And this is where I've done the constraints to say, if I need to make this entire thing bigger, because it does happen, your prototype, you make it smaller, you make it bigger. I don't want all these objects to actually change in any direction. So this is where that constraint thing can really help. I set all these different aspects within here. Here's a frame. And I said I want it to scale left to right, but I want it to stay at the top. I don't want it to scale down. And that's why if I drag down here, I'm not going to get like a really fat, you know, filter, because that's practical and that doesn't really happen in Tableau. So I set this just to scale left and right. So then you can do all the other objects within this frame. So in this one, I have set to the top and the right, and this line, same thing. I don't want it to adjust as anything gets bigger. So you can use constraints to allow you to use one thing you've built and apply it in various other places without having to create like a bunch of these. I just have to create one, and then I can adjust it and it still looks as I would like it to be. All right, let's go back. Okay. Next up, let's talk about creating some images and objects. All right, we're going to go back. All right, a couple other skills to share. All right, so this is a great one for when you're building things in prototyping. There's a lot of great tricks you can use with spacing, and I'm constantly doing these kinds of things. So as soon as you click on an object, you'll see there's some spacing options up here in alignment. So if I take all these shapes, and I can just build them quickly, because sometimes, you know, you do want things to be pixel perfect, but it's not worth doing it right away because Figma can do it for you. So I built these quick shapes, and let's say I want them to be all aligned to the left. Let me make it a bar chart. And then, oops. And let's make the height of 50 now. Once I have these things, and once you select a couple of these, there's also the distance between them. So I can preset these. Let me try this again. So let's select them all. This first. Up here, there's distribute vertically and horizontally. These, and so what it did is it distributed them evenly based on the top one of these, and then it'll distribute them all evenly. But let's say I don't really want them to look like this. I need it to be a bar chart. Once they're distributed evenly, or if you've taken two, you can distribute them how you want. There's another little spacing option over here. Right now it's at -9 because they're overlapping by 9 pixels. So I can say, well, I need them to be apart. That's not enough. It'll be 15. And so now I can quickly have a bar chart that I didn't have to pixel push at all. I had Figma do it for me. When I'm prototyping too, let's also say I need to make labels for my bar chart. That's for purpose of illustration. So let's say I have these right here. Well, I don't want to like actually make 3 different text boxes. That takes a lot of time, and I'm making a bunch more layers of objects that I don't need. But what you can do instead is for spacing down under the text section on the right, there's a spacing between paragraphs. And so I can increase this, and you can actually, instead of typing it, if you don't know, you can just like drag it, and you're like, oh, look, it's, there we go. And now I have, this on just slightly. Now I have my header that I didn't have to, again, make 3 text boxes. So using space allow you to quickly create a chart without a whole lot of effort. Okay. Too far. All right. Next for creating objects is components. And again, this is more of a technical or more complex kind of thing, but this can be super powerful. So components are essentially assets that then you can use through the rest of your designs. And you can make one thing and then quickly like change it out. I'll show you in a second. So here are a bunch of icons. I have 2 sets, right? Sets of 6. Then I've created some buttons. So I just had to make a couple, and then now what I've done is I've put these components in, technically over here under assets. Here I can drag the new one out. So once I have it, I can create and say like, I don't really want this one. On the right over here, once you've clicked it, you'll see it says demo icons, property 1, property 2. Say, well, I actually want it to be up there, and I don't want it to be here at all. We're going to do the database. So once I have them all, I can really easily just keep pulling in these components and utilizing them again and again. Here's an example of a button. I can create a couple buttons, and then I can quickly like change between these without having to without having to find it, copy paste it. It doesn't matter where this button actually lives in terms of the original component. I can still access it and quickly do these. So I'm going to show you how to do that here because we'll use this in a little bit. So here I have 5 eyeballs that are actually created in Figma. These are all little tiny things. So if I zoom in, this is all built, which is kind of creepy. But there you have it. All right, so here's my 5 icons that I'm now going to make into components that I can use later. You can select all of them one at a time. I've named them all, so I'll just select them on the top here. There's a little icon that's create component. It's your component 1. This is about masking. This is about like unioning or subtracting similar to PowerPoint. So I'm going to say create component set. It's automatically going to create these all in separate components and create the set for me. So you'll see right here, it says property 1. I don't have any other properties because they're just named, but you can do properties where you say, oh, I want this to be, as I said before, it's green bell, and using just a slash mark, backslash will tell Figma that the first thing is the first property and the second thing is the second property. So now I have these eyes. And now they're over here. So I drag out an eye and change it to whichever eye I want it to look like. Directly from this side. I'm going to do the same thing with these buttons real quick so I can use them later as well. I probably already made this component earlier. Oh, whatever. I can select these and put your components there. Okay. Next is color styles. So this is really useful for prototyping. You have standard colors you tend to like. This is really great for brands, but colors. So I start by quickly making a color palette. I'm going to use it even if I'm doing like a public viz. It's a lot easier to, if I'm building something, instead of clicking the fill and trying to find that color again or remembering the text code. Instead, you can just make each of these into a style. So to do that, you click the color. Is under your fill, there's this little style, these 4 little squares. Clicking that opens up this color style browser. If you don't have anything created, you won't see anything. You can press the plus. You'll say, hey, I'll be like pink. That's all I have to say for this if I want. If it's for something particular, which would more be like, only ever used for, backgrounds or for divider lines or for, buttons, whatever it might be, do that there. And they could create a style. And then you can have all of these together in your. So it again allows you to be faster at what you're doing. All right, a couple last things to share. Go over some other skills and shortcuts to help accelerate your work in Figma. So either screenshot this or have you, but I'm going to show some of these things that help me build faster. So you can undo, which is if I make a mistake. I did this. I don't really need that press. I guess actually NZ. I don't know why it's for control. It's command. But know that different than Tableau, there is a limitation. So I should have probably looked it up, but I've run into, undoing like 20 times and then realizing that's it. So, but Figma does save a version history, so if you ever do need it, you can get back. Duplicating, you can press your Option, Control, and drag, and it'll duplicate it. But you can also do just Alt-D, and it will also duplicate. The difference is it'll duplicate in the exact place you. It'll do it like in order. Like if you want to duplicate things down, it'll do it in the same place you position. Sorry, that you told the first one to, and then it'll. You can group objects, and this is I say this is different than frames. Because what grouping does, if I group these 2 objects and press Command G, at the size of the whole thing, whereas a frame is everything within it, regardless if they hit the edges. That is the size of the frame. Grouping becomes kind of a little. You never know what size it's going to be, and this can be difficult for if you're exporting an image into Tableau. You do want the size of what you end up placing in Tableau to be the same size in pixels as you created in Figma. And groups doesn't give you a lot of understanding of how big it was going to be. So sometimes I just like to use. And you can obviously ungroup. The other cool thing, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you later too, in a sec, is that you can size projects by using math, which I think is so cool that a tool allows you to do this. And what I mean by that is, if let's say I have something that's, all right, whatever. Let's say I have, I have this much space, and I know I have to put 3 tiles in. I have 600 pixels. I can say, let's divide. What do I type? Divide by 3, and I will get the size. It was 3. 600 divided by 3. Now you can do this multiple other ways too, by adding and subtracting. So you have to say, I want to divide it by 3, but then I got to subtract 5 pixels of margin or something. Do that. So I can say 2 divided by 10, and these all will get just 10 pixels smaller. So I like that you can do that, because that really makes, when you're designing something that's going to go into Tableau, you don't have to think about how things are going to fit. You can just do the math. A couple other things is, what you'll notice is that once you build things, so say I was going to build a band on top of this. I'm going to make this up right now. Let's say it's There are times where I want to grab things and move things around, but I don't want to grab these underlying pieces because they can stay where they are. So what I like also in Figma is that you can lock layers. So I can select these three things, and there's a little lock button on the left in the layers. And so I can just lock these, which now means if I had, say, I had a on, and I needed to grab them all because I wanted to highlight them, I can now grab all of these, like clicking and dragging, and not grab those background tiles. So I can do that, and then I easily change all these things. If I hadn't locked them, it would have, dragging would have grabbed all of the pieces, or I would have had to individually select them. When I'm prototyping, sometimes I need to grab a bunch of bars, and then I don't want to have to grab like the lines that I put in between my bars or something, or my reference lines. So if you can do some quick movements. I'm not going to go over the rest of those because you can all see it. All right, and the last thing before I show this is there are plugins in Figma, and so those are other things that have been developed that you can utilize, and some of them I think are more applicable to Tableau or the use of that than others, but things that are definitely useful. And you should know that you can get these if you go to your home and then there's a community button and you can just like search. I'm not going to show it right now, but once you do have any plugins that you've grabbed or have saved, as something, they end up showing up here under your little icon. And these are, I haven't even done a very good due diligence of what's out there for plugins, but there's a couple that I do really like and use frequently. So one is called Split Shape. So this is really good if you're doing, again, developing and you need to make, like I said, like 4 bands, or I make a bar chart and I need to have 10 bars, and I don't want to make 10 things. A lot faster to make one thing and just split it. So let's say I'm going to do, I'll do 4 tiles, and only one row. Oh, for just think we'll make this a grid. I can do my gutter and my margin. I'll see how this looks. There we go. So I split it, and you'll see it it's split that shape, and now I have all these pieces that I can actually use. So that can be very much a time saver. Other couple of things, particularly if you're prototyping or like the community project, real world fake data, you want to make a logo. There is one called Logo Creator, which is kind of fun. They don't have a whole lot in there yet, but I find it useful at times, or it might be useful. What's going on here? No. Okay. Well, we'll see. Anyway, it gives you some different logos, and then what's cool is because they're all vector, adjust them. So this one was just black, and then I was able to adjust all the different parts of it and make a logo. I don't know why it's not running. It's usually that slow. There it is. So you'll see there's some logos here, but I don't have any of these, and then change the colors or modify it however I want. Give you just a starting place for something like that if you need it to. And one more that I'll show you now. There is Unsplash, which is for images, so you can add images straight from Unsplash, which is cool. But there's also Image Tracer. So I found this useful when, while I've created some of my own icons, sometimes I'm lazy. I don't have time for that. So you can use Image Tracer. So like, oh, like I have this little image of a pug from the internet. I just literally screenshotted it. Make sure you're not doing anything that's like you shouldn't be doing copyright perspective. Image Tracer is pretty cool because then it'll just take this and make a vector out of it, and I can just say, yeah, that looks fantastic. Thank you very much. And it'll place this image right there. And once you have something that's a vector, now I can actually modify it. Where I couldn't modify this image, I can modify this. I can change the fill of it. I can apply other types of plugins to it, like I did earlier with this little plug, which is, I find super cool. All right, so finally, I'm gonna see if I can, how much time I have left, quickly show a lot of these things into action and how you can do this. So this is not my image. This is done by Marcelo. I thought it was really cool. And all right, let's show you all how you can recreate this and how to use some of the skills that I just shared in terms of doing it. So what he's done here is a lot of this is a background image, and then obviously there's charts on here. So I've already started this a little bit, but what I'll show you is, for a second, you'll see. All right, so here we have a couple of vectors that I just literally drew with a pen. And as we talked earlier about clipping content, I have my frame here, and these vectors are clipped. So that's how you get this effect of, these shapes going off the page. And then each of them, I've added a fill, and fills can be solid, linear, all these other different things. So I added some linear fill to kind of get some of the effect that he had in here. And then they layer blur, because his both looks blurred from above and below. So I've kind of blurred them so the lines don't, when they touch each other, go sharp. I have a rectangle over this. And so this rectangle is set to a 50% opacity with a background blur. Background blurs have to have opacity to kind of work. Otherwise, you're not really blurring what's behind it because you can't see it. But that's how he's achieving this kind of glassy look. All right, then we're going to show how we do some of these other things really quick. So by grabbing that rectangle, we're going to quickly make his little tiles at the top. We're going to use that split shape again. Plug in so I can quickly split this shape into 6. One row, probably like 15. That doesn't work. Nah, I need way more than that. Okay. As we showed earlier, I can also now quickly just adjust these, and I need them to be wider. Make their width 30, like round numbers. And then I'm going to move their back, so I can just drag this. I need to move that a little bit. That looks good enough. Well, my text, it goes here. Too much time doing this. And again, with text, I can make all the adjustments, the size, and like he's using a font that looks a little more spread than whatever I'm using. But again, Figma allows me to add a little spacing. So if I really want to space out a little bit more like his, I can kind of. Now, also, I grabbed that eyeball from earlier because he made an eye thing, so I'll use it on my eyes. And I have blue eyes, so I'll use blue eye plus blue. And as I shared before, I don't know if you noticed, but I almost clicked on this background when I do that. So as I said earlier, I'm going to lock it because I don't actually need to touch it at all. Don't plan on needing it. And also we had done, oh, those buttons are not the ones I want. Okay, I'll use this button, it's fine. But now that we've done some components, let's pretend this was the right one that I wanted, that's all right. I can drag these in much faster. Now with components, you can still adjust them, so I can quickly make that the right size. And using my Alt and drag, And then, oops, oh, I did that. Option drag, I can make my couple buttons here. And this one I'm going to have be my, let's see, unselect button. And switch that quickly to unselected. Change this font. This is big. Yeah, so there I got buttons. You know, to achieve kind of these other two things, again, I can, if I don't want to do the split, again, I can just control drag and make these two. Line them all up if I need and adjust accordingly. That's not what I want to do. All right, so for purposes of demonstration, I can click both of these, and because I need them to look the same, I can adjust them at the same time. So I can just, I can do one and then copy it, or I can make the two and say, let's just do it all together. So I'm gonna change it, and he's got a stroke, which is an outline. So if I add a stroke by pressing the plus, it'll give me a black stroke. It's a little fatter, so I'll make it 2. And what you'll see is it's faded. So you can also change the fill of the stroke to be whatever you want. So in this case, he's got a linear stroke where the top one is that blue. We're gonna grab that. And the bottom one actually is white. Yes, it's fading out. Rounded edges. So up here on your sizing, you can round these edges out. Don't have my handy filter saved as a component, but I should. But then I would put, you know, my filters in if I were to use this as a prototyping. So pretty quickly, I can get most of what he's done, just with some simple shapes and some simple techniques that I shared earlier. There we go. Yeah. So that is that it. I don't know if I probably took up all. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I got. If anyone has any questions, I was not looking at the chat while I was talking, so.
Yeah, no, thank you, Lindsay, and that was a great presentation. I think, you know, for me at least, you know, that was a great intro into Figma and seeing all the power that you could do with it. It looks like definitely with a little bit of practice, you can come up and get pretty savvy with it really quick. I guess I did have a question. You know, when you're prototyping with Figma, how far do you take your design and prototyping process before you actually build the dashboards? Do you get final sign off there, or is it really more like, hey, this is just to nail down the basics and then I go to the build phase? How far do you take it?
Yeah, I take it to exactly what I plan to build. Oh, look, here are my kids. Yes.
All right, you got some cameos. Yeah, there we go.
Exactly. Yeah, no, mine's like I go pretty detailed. Typically because it's more useful for me to have it all designed out, and that way I know exactly what I'm building, and they have said, yeah, you know, I do want my dashboard to look good and operate and function this way. So that once like I'm ready to have the data, just start developing and building, which, yeah. So it is very pixel perfect, with the exception of, you know, I'm clearly putting in no numbers. So it's like hash marks and X's for words, unless there's something I need to, you know, obviously headers will be like, hey, it's going to be metric and this will be, all my titles are exactly how they would be. The only difference would be the pretend data. The colors should be right, all functionality expected.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which, you know,
cool.
You know, does take a little bit of time, but I think it actually, A, it's fun, and then B, I think it helps.
Yeah.
Think through better like potential Tableau designs, because, you know, I can be a little more creative.
Cool. Yeah, Homer, do you have a question on your side?
Yeah, we have a couple. One from Andrea Keating. Andrea asks, can you show us how to translate your prototype from Figma to Tableau? That is to say, copy and paste images.
Yep. Yeah, I think I can show that. I wish I had another one open, but did I see this? I think this is actually one. Yeah. Or did I do the image to avoid it? No, this is it. This is real. This is a real one. So this is like an actual one, but so if you were to, you can export these. So in the bottom down here, you'll see an export button. So if I were to actually need to like share this, I would export this as, I could export as a PNG and save it locally if I wanted to, or you can also copy this whole selection and just you can right click and say copy as PNG or even an SVG for that matter. This allows you to paste it in. I need to paste it into an email. I don't need to save it, or I can paste it into a PowerPoint. You could do that. That's how I would take the actual prototype design and use it. If it's more about like translating this, like a prototype to Tableau, I mean, I'm actually going to design in Tableau this exact way. Likely with as little images as I can. So in real life, with client work, I don't actually use background images. I usually design in a way that I can build exactly what it is all in Tableau. Potentially like buttons and navigation things that might need to be like custom shapes. But otherwise, I'm not exporting my entire prototype into Tableau. I will just now build it in Tableau containers and all those things. If I am doing a background image, which I've done for some public work, that entire frame, you would do the export as an image as a PNG, and then you would import it. Import it into Tableau or dashboard, and you do want to make sure it's the exact same size as the dashboard. Otherwise, images can get a little like blurry if they're not the size that you export it as. So again, if you have a 12 by 800 dashboard and you make an image that's going to be in the background, you'll want a 1200 by 800 size dashboard and size image here, and then you'll get rid of all the padding in Tableau, so it fits. So that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay, and then here's one from Catherine, who has used Figma to create an annotation layer for dashboard and also a background image. And she wants to know, how long have you been using Figma, and do you have any tips on how to ramp up prototyping more quickly?
Yeah, I've been using it for probably about 3 years, and sorry, get the husband to help. Get these kids out of here. So yeah, so I think the prototyping part can be a little tricky because it does take a little bit of time to kind of, there's a couple things. One is really being able to take what you know of the data, if you know anything of it, as well as what you know of Tableau and what it can do, and strategically and creatively design what you think you're going to build. And I think some people can have a difficult jump of, I don't even have the data yet. How do I know, if it's going to work this way? And some of that may depend on how you operate or your client, or if you have data or know it. But so that can be challenging. The second is like getting just up to speed on being fast enough in Figma that your prototyping isn't going to slow down your whole process. And I think a lot of folks think that prototyping is going to slow down that because it's a step before you're developing, and people think, well, I do 2 things now instead of 1. I do think that there is a bit of a practice of you're gonna have to prototype enough so that you're efficient at it. Therefore, it is beneficial on many levels to your Tableau dashboard development. So a lot of it is some of the things I shared with just some efficiency tricks that once you learn some of those things, you can be a little faster at doing it. But it does just take practice. I tend to sometimes look at things that are on, I mean, you could literally grab a screenshot of a dashboard that you see on Dribble, which is a website similar to like whatever, or Tab Public for that matter, like I was showing, and just try to recreate it entirely in Figma, because you just need to learn some of the skill development, and then that can really help. A lot of it is just taking some time to learn all the pieces of it and continue to get creative in how you prototype. I mean, a lot of my builds are always very different, but I work with a lot of different clients. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Any other questions, Homer?
That's all the questions I have.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate you taking out time out of your day to meet with us. That really enjoyed the presentation. I think everybody learned a lot about Figma. So hopefully we'll see a lot of great prototyping out there in the near future. So thank you very much. Are you going to be at TC?
I am. I will be there.
Okay.
I can't believe it's so soon. It's crazy. I'm not ready.
Right. So if anybody's going to be there in TC, look around for Lindsay and say hello. So, all right. Well, Lindsay, thank you very much again. Everybody give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks. All right. All right, everybody. So, yeah, now for our next part of our session. This is our Ask Anyone Anything Tableau. And we know here that with our new Bevy platform, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of people that will be, we're going to have to enable the features so people can actually speak and see video. This is our networking portion. We're going to do our best with this, so let's see how it works out. For those that want, we're not going to do a breakout room today. So we're going to just do our networking event right here in this space. If you want to drop, feel free to drop now. And those that want to stay around, we will then promote you guys so that you have the option to share video. You don't have to, but you will have the option to share video. And then in this format, this is where we you get an opportunity to really just ask any questions about Tableau that you have. It could be around Tableau Desktop, Tableau Server, tips and tricks, any sort of questions you have around adoption, training. We've really heard any question out there. So get questions answered by the experts. Those are the folks here in the community. So right now we'll give everybody about a minute if you want to drop, and then we will get started. So, and Homer, let's see here. Are you looking at the attendee list? We can go ahead and promote some folks here in a sec. Yeah.
So at the end of a minute, I will be promoting those of you that are staying for the networking one by one to presenter mode, and then you will see your mute and video buttons no longer grayed out, and you'll have the ability to talk and to see and share with your camera. So just hang back for a minute, and then we will give you the power.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody's patience with Bevy. Oh yeah, let's start at the bottom. Yeah, I appreciate everybody's patience with Bevy too. As I mentioned in the chat, we will be switching back over to Zoom, and this was an experiment, and we experimented. I think we're going to switch back. So
I think we gave it the old college try, and
we tried. Can't say we didn't try.
We will still be using Bevy for sending out the meeting invites.
Yes.
And other things. So you're still going to get emails that come from Bevy. Doesn't mean that we've totally abandoned the platform.
Yeah, that's a good point of clarification. Yes, just for video.
We will be using Zoom for the virtual portion of our meetings themselves. Whether it's hybrid or pure virtual, we'll be using Zoom.
Do you want me to start adding people from the bottom?
I've got almost everybody now. Oh, Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, guys. All right, we see folks. So now, if you'd like to enable your video, it'd be great. That's when we usually do our little networking part here.
Yeah, it's great
And
to
we,
see your face when we're just
we
talking
typically
amongst
do a
ourselves.
round. Yeah, we do a quick round of introductions too. I see we have 16 folks. I think we could maybe do a quick intro. What do you think, Homer? If everybody just says
Yeah.
their name and where they're from, how about that?
Yeah, real briefly.
Yeah, so again, I'm Chris Monahan, president of Zeomatrix. We're a Tableau partner here in Austin. Homer?
Yeah, I'm Homer Hegedus, on the council with Chris, and Tableau lover and data science consultant and contractor.
All right, James?
Hi guys, James, based here in Austin. Used to work at Tableau with Josh, if he is still on. And yeah, love Tableau and like to go sailing and mix the two sometimes.
All right, cool. How about you, Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a senior BI analyst here at JLL, and I just really love being part of this counseling and finding speakers. It's great
And
chance to be part of the community.
She's sporting the I Heart Data shirt too. I love that. That's cool. Alan, you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, I'm Alan. I'm in Austin and love being part of these groups and hearing everybody.
Cool. Thanks, Alan. Welcome. And John? I don't know if John's still
John
there.
Burns.
We'll try. Yeah.
Just needs to
how about
unmute.
Joshua?
Hi, I'm Josh Leapster. I am a technical enablement manager at a small hosting provider and managed service provider called 1111 Systems, and I'm just trying to make my organization data-driven.
Oh, cool. All right, welcome.
Not easy.
Gordon.
Hi, everyone. I'm at Baker Tilly. I'm a PM and software developer, working a lot with extensions right now, and just hoping to learn more about dashboards.
All right, awesome. Let's see, Kyle. Are you there? Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, Kyle.
he unmuted. Kyle?
Looks maybe the audio is not working there.
Yeah.
We'll come back to you, Kyle. How about, yeah, William? All right. Anybody else that we missed? Feel free to jump in now.
Yeah, just
All
unmute
right.
yourself and speak up.
I think we got everybody. All right. So, Homer, where should we start?
Well, usually we start with if anybody has a particular task they're trying to do in Tableau, something they're trying to achieve, but kind of run into a roadblock or just haven't figured out how to do that. Feel free to share your pain and your woes, and let's see if we have a doctor in the house to help you out. We've had
Any
pretty good
questions from the
success
audience?
with helping people get over the hurdles in using Tableau, which we all know do exist from time to time.
Yeah. Any questions from the field?
So I've got one that maybe is a bit niche.
Okay.
Has anyone had experience doing data overwrites from a dashboard using extensions? So you have your dashboard with an embedded extension, and then using that extension to drive updates to your source information through the dashboard.
Yes, I have. It's a great question. It's more of a write back utility, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right back to the data.
Yep. So what what I would recommend, and full disclaimer, we are a partner of them. I would use something from Infotopics Apps for Tableau. They're based out of the Netherlands, and they have a great product. And let's see if I can put this in the chat here. It's called. If you're writing your own, that's a whole different story. That it's actually harder to do than it sounds. The logic to write a write back, because I've had to do this in the past as a former programmer in my old days, and I'm really old. And that it was hard. It's hard to do, but they have gone ahead and created a product called Write Back Extreme, and it does handle that write back scenario. So you can do updates, you can do inserts, that kind of thing. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
And if you're interested,
Thanks.
let me know. I can put you in touch with them. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be
That's
great.
a good question. Yeah, cool product, cool use case. They're great for those that don't know, and I'll share my screen real quick. That is the feature that's more commonly used for like maybe financial forecasting. That's another good one, right? That kind of thing. And go ahead and do write back scenarios. You can add data, right, to a data set, or you can update bad records, like if you're cleaning data, right, data helper, like data correction, right? So it's really cool. There's a lot of cool use cases for that, but finance and forecasting is one place I see a lot of that. Inventory analysis, correcting inventory, that kind of thing. So it's a pretty cool use case.
That's what we're doing too, is location analysis. So doing our models, getting
Awesome.
the BAs something to look at, not just a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's really pushing the envelope at Tableau, though. That's extending it. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey getting into it.
Yeah. How long has your organization been using Tableau?
Tableau for a long time. Extensions just about the last year. I've been doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Great question. Any other questions from the group?
So let me ask again, who's going to Tableau conference?
Anyone?
Yeah, just speak up.
Who's attending remotely? Is anyone attending remotely? I know. Now I'll be attending. It's cool. Yeah, you definitely should check it out if you get some time. I know in the past they've done they have some great speakers, but they also do devs on stage. I don't know if they're doing that again. Amy, do you know if they're doing that again this year? Devs on stage?
I don't know.
Oh, we'll have to see. Yeah, so that's where they show a lot of the cool new features coming out with Tableau. What are some of the other questions we usually get, Homer?
Well, a lot like the questions we got from Gordon, but it seems there are fewer of those today.
There are fewer of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to take up everybody's time for sure.
Yeah.
Again, this is usually an area where if you have questions next time, feel free to bring them. It's a safe space, and there's no question that's out of bounds. So we usually get a lot of great answers too. So yeah, if you have any questions about anything around Tableau, just feel free to bring them next time. Okay. Well, we'll let everybody go. You guys, thank you for joining our TUG. We'll see you at our next event. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye-bye.